Welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. We're going to do a crypto update today. It's March 19th, 2023. So we've been doing these updates about once a month. And the bigger premise here is that Bitcoin has probably made its 4-year cycle low or its long-term cycle low, whatever you want to call it. ETH, and then that happened in November. Ether, more importantly, made its low back in June. It didn't make a lower low in November with the FTX collapse, which is even more significant, something one should be paying attention to. These are annual charts, and we will focus on Bitcoin and ETH, but just a few others that I'm tracking. This is Fetch AI, Solana, Optimism, GMX, Lido, and Matic. And I'll actually change it so that we can just see the tickers because that is more helpful. And so and will apply to all. And what so the bigger premise is that crypto, these tokens are are starting or in the early part of a long-term uptrend is the likely case. And that might not be the case for Solana. This is a much more speculative one. But first off, these are annual charts. So every candle here is 1 year of price action, and you can see obviously it's incredibly early. We haven't even closed the first quarter yet, so there's a lot top time for these candles to trade. But we're all green. And notice for GMX, we've already made a higher high above last year. And you'll notice a lot of these have very little price action. It's because they're really new. That's not a bad thing, right? Like this is like the first 2 candles of Ether, for instance. It's not a bad thing to be in during this point, right? So you can have a opportunity for all of this. And that's because a lot of these have lower market caps. I mean, it'll be a question how much they can really grow into a much bigger market cap, but that's important. I think, and you know, Matic is a good example. I think this is like 10 billion right now market cap. And so you can see most of them are an inside year so far. So that's important, meaning they didn't make a lower low last year. Or I should say, excuse me, they haven't made a lower low below last year's low, so they're holding a higher low at this point. Most of them did make a lower low below the previous year, so this is Bitcoin. We'll zoom into that. You can see, and I've called this out in previous videos. It closed way below the 2021 low in 2022, right? The 2022 close was way below the low of 2021, which was 27,678. And so it's not a surprise that we're right around that level right now and we're having a pullback on lower time frames. That's an important level. The lowest price anyone was able to get in 2021 was 27,678. And so that, I mean, and we obviously, dropped closer to 15,000. So it's been a big move back up here, and now price has a decision time to make, because you can kind of think of this as that's a down move. I mean, like if we really if we spell this out, right, you're talking about, and I don't think this is even going back as far as it should move. Higher low, higher high. Is this a higher low and we're up again? It's that simple. That's why I love these yearly charts. Obviously, you zoom in for detail to understand entries, but to really get a sense of where you are in the big picture. And ETH, I'll just call out again, last year, what was just an inside year. It didn't even make a lower low below 2021. 2021's low was 716. Last year's low was 880. And so now we're an inside year again, but we're green. And so it's a double inside year. Again, a lot of time for the candle to trade, but we're just trading inside the range from 2021, which obviously went to all-time highs at 48.68. And again, that low is 716. So, and again, we zoom into lower time frames to understand the specific, opportunity right now. So let's do that. Let's look at Bitcoin. Let's think about it from a cycles perspective. Always take a look at the pinned pinned comment to get a sense of some background detail on cycles, price action, etc. This is your daily chart of Bitcoin with a cycles approach applied. I know this thing is famous for these quote-unquote 60-day cycles. They have been erratic lately, and that's why I think it's more important to think about the higher time frame cycles. But it's very clear that March 10th was a daily cycle low, right? It was a local low. We were well below the 10-day moving average, and then we got a swing low on March 11th. That was the buy signal. Boom. So above, once we went above 20,368 on a local time frame, and I'll talk about the higher time frame, which is what I'm tracking. This candle creates a swing low, and then we get followed through. That's another higher high, more higher highs. So we then consolidated for a day, or 2 days really, because these 2 days candles are basically just inside the range of this big candle, and then we broke above that range on, what is that, Friday. And since we broke through that range on Friday, what have we been doing? We've been consolidating. So the expectation is that we do something like this eventually, right? Maybe a few more days. And of course, thinking about where we are in time, the FOMC meeting is coming up next week. So it's not surprising that most markets are consolidating here. And you can see more specifically, we are consolidating inside the range from yesterday. So the Saturday's candle. So that is between 27,776 and 26,707. So that's about $1,000 range actually. And so wouldn't be surprising again to see us kind of keep consolidating. But this is only 9 days. And that's, to me, that's the most helpful thing about cycles. It gives you a sense of how long rallies go. That's a 9-day rally so far. If we get a cycle that's been in this kind of range, this was a 70-day cycle. This was a shorter one at 39. This is another long one at 75. The point is, you can have these long rallies. Like this was 48 days. Even this was 23 days, even though it was kind of feeble. But then you could have something like this, where we top out on day 6. I mean, look how nasty that is. We're clearly not getting that yet. We could get that at any moment, so you have to keep your head on a swivel. But on a local basis, this is still healthy. But more importantly, if we look at the weekly chart, where does that put us? I mean, look at that. Look at this little swing low here on that weekly. That's just a beautiful higher low right there. So the same way we got that swing low on the daily, this is your swing low on the weekly above 22,590. And again, could get some consolidation. We have a new weekly candle that opens this week, or tonight really. But the expectation was we keep moving higher. And you can see, look at that. This is a 16-week rally. That was a 12-week. Like, so this has actually, like, if you look from like right here, that hasn't even been that long. Yeah, 11 weeks. But most importantly is to pay attention to the monthly chart, right? So this is your Bitcoin monthly chart, and keep in mind, we just went through this period. So there's a cycle that remember we talked about the 4-year cycle. That was our last, hold on a second here. So you have a move from here to here, and then from there to there. So you can see on the monthly chart, it's really just, this is a big move up, and then you have this move down. Then you have this move up, and then you've had this move down, which, again, the presumption is that we completed that move down here, to be very clear, in November for Bitcoin, your famous 4-year cycle. So that would put us on month 4 of a new 4-year cycle. And keep in mind that this last monthly cycle topped out on November 2021, which was 35 months in. I mean, think about that. Look at the length of this rally, and then look at this, the length of this decline. A much shorter decline than the rally. Either way, if we're only on month 4 of a new monthly cycle, that means we could have many, many more months of upside. So that's what we want. That's what we want to be paying attention to, keeping in mind. And if we look at ETH, it's a very similar picture in terms of just kind of where we are in the monthly picture. And that's what you want to focus on. Look at that. We're making a higher high above previous months. And we've had this decline that ended here. Again, this is all, like, if you look at ETH, this is all this whole move is consolidation inside the range of the big candle from June, that big capitulation candle. We haven't gotten out of the range of that candle. That candle has a high at 1970. that tells you that level is going to be significant. I think that's where price is running. That's about $200 from here. It's going to be a question of decision time. What do we do when we get there? What do we do when we get there? This is your weekly chart, or excuse me, this is your monthly chart. And so, do we get something like this for April? That's what I expect. That's what I'm positioned for. Let's see. And of course, again, we'd be relatively early in this like long-term cycle. I mean, look how long this rally lasted. And of course, keep in mind you had this COVID crash in the middle of this long-term cycle, so that kind of muddied things. But this is still an uptrend, and then you have this decline. Look at this uptrend, and then this decline. So you want to just be prepared for, like, you're obviously not going to go up this kind of percentage given the market cap, but you could still run quite a bit from here. And so that's what I would focus on, these higher time frames, the wind at your back, unless you see some, like, and this is your quarterly chart because March is about to close, so that's important to know about. And what are we doing? We're trying to make a higher high above last quarter, but of course, remember, everything has been inside the range of June, which means we're actually just inside the range of Q2 of last year, which is an interesting way to think about it, right? Because that March candle was so large that it's essentially it's dominating the quarterly candle. And so this is really a game that we're going to see on the quarterly chart. And so because a quarterly chart is such a high time frame, you can't miss it. You'll see it. And again, we have to contend with the range of this candle then. That's a high of 350 3582. So that tells you if we could break out above 2000, 3600 could be right around the corner. That could be a rapid move, and that's a really nice percentage. It's almost a double up. So ETH is definitely the horse I'm riding in terms of large cap. And of course, we talked about the other ones that I have on my radar. GMX, that's actually a good staking token, a position there. Lido, which is a liquid staking token. And when I say staking token, I mean it's actually a decentralized exchange on a layer 2. But this token, when you buy it, you can stake it. You get GMX rewards. You also get ETH rewards. Optimism is a layer 2. So again, these things are really early as well, and so you have that benefit, which meaning a much lower market cap. I think all of these are essentially below $10 billion in market cap, and so that's really helpful. And Matic is being used by corporates all over. If we go down to just one level lower, I suppose, on these guys, let's look at the monthlies. Right, so Optimism is just made a lower low below last month, but it's trying to go from red to green. That's bullish. Solana's trying to do the same. Fetch is an inside month, Fetch IO. And again, we just looked at ETH. So ETH is leading these little coins. Like, look, you see ETH and Bitcoin are solidly green on the month, making higher highs. But these other smaller coins, altcoins, if you want to call them, are all red. But in a lot of cases, they were more red. They're just going, actually, they're just trying to go green. So it tells you the large caps have been leading. That's interesting. So that's the update on crypto. The bottom is very likely in, and position sizing is a superpower. A small allocation could go a really long way, especially on something that has a really small market cap. Thanks for watching.